President, we are so pleased to have you.
Voilà.
Thank you.
Mr. President, this is your second visit, your first visit as the President, your second, you came to Egypt, you visited Egypt as Prime Minister back to the year 2009. Tell us more details about this visit and your talks with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, please.
Yes, my first visit, the first visit of a President of the Republic of Slovenia, of an official visit of a President of the Republic of Slovenia in Egypt. This in itself is already a milestone in the relations between the two nations and the two countries. This year we are celebrating in Slovenia 25 years of our independence. In these 25 years we always had good political and economic relations with Egypt. And today, with your President, we have evaluated that also because of my official visit here today, it is time to step up the agreements and to improve our relations in politics and economics. You have mentioned my visit in 2009 when I visited Egypt as a Prime Minister. Those were different times, both for Slovenia and both for Egypt. Slovenia back then experienced a very difficult financial and economic crisis. We had tense relations with our neighbors, with the Republic of Croatia, and we tried to resolve these issues in a peaceful manner. Egypt back then was in front of a turbulent time you have experienced in the past few years. And over the past few years, Slovenia got out of the crisis, and also Egypt stabilized its politics. And now it seems that both countries, Slovenia and Egypt, are in the conditions, in the situation, are ready to tackle with a political will these issues and to deepen their political and economic cooperation. Egypt sees Slovenia as an important hub, an important space within the European Union. We are members of the Schengen area, of the Euro area. We have excellent relations with all the countries of the Western Balkans, and we see Egypt as a pillar of political stability and security in the entire region, and the standpoint of Egypt towards peaceful resolution of all of these things is very interesting for us.
Since you just mentioned that you Slovenia overcame the financial crisis, and as far as I follow, it was in the banking sector. Now we are having similar issues here in Egypt, economic setbacks. How could we share the experience from Slovenia in this domain, especially that you're accompanied by representatives from 13 countries. You're attending a business forum here in Cairo as well.
First of all, when it comes to the question of sanitizing or resolving the banking sector in Slovenia, we have to understand the bailing out within the European banking system, or at least the parts of the banks that are within the Eurozone. I want to say with that parts of the measures were being carried out by the Slovenian government, part by the European Commission, and part by the European Central Bank. These were as the leading authority in the common monetary policy. When it comes to Slovenia's relation to the banks in 2008 and 2009, we had to tackle the problem where many public and private banks had bad debts. We had to increase their capital, we had to bail them out. We did it successfully. The banks are healthy now. We, of course, had to use taxpayer money for that. But at the same time, we had to do all the other measures, from reforming our pension system and all other reforms in order to stabilize the entire sector of public finances. And here we can find parallels between Egypt and Slovenia. It is not possible to have a stable and strong currency. You need also to have a stable and strong economy. And as I understood, my dear friend and your president, You have decided to step on a demanding path of reforms in order to stabilize the economy, to strengthen it, and in this way to offer the banks the possibility to do their job, to lend money at good rates and stimulate economic growth. I think you're on the beginning, but you're on the right path.
Now the business delegation that is accompanying you, I understand that they will have a tour as well in the Suez Canal area. Which interests do they have? How interesting for them are the sectors, the mega project here in Egypt?
Well, first of all, for us it is very important for Egypt to see the importance of our port of Koper, because the port of Koper is an entry point for huge quantities of goods coming from Egypt or traveling through Egypt to the Western Mediterranean and Western Europe. It is also very important for us, and this is what your president pointed out in our talks. Slovenia and Europe will not help Egypt by giving direct subsidies, but by investing here. And that's why I find my visit important, because with my presence here and the business community, I would like to tell to them that I see Egypt as a politically stable country which has settled now after a period of unrest, that now today is a safe environment for investments, and that now there need to be investments in this economic development. We have an exchange amounting to almost $100 million, which is not quite enough for countries like our two countries. With your president, we have estimated that we could double that and we see here the economic sectors of building and trade, so the construction industry. And Egypt, for us, is not only important from a political point of view, but also from an economic point of view, as an entry point to this region. And in this sense, our entrepreneurs are very much interested in Egypt. But as I already said, for them, it is very important that I do evaluate and others evaluate Egypt to be stabilized and to be stable, a space for safe investments, and that here it is good to make strategic investments and that these investments definitely pay off. And I think the same applies to Slovenia, and I'm happy to see that after a few years, 7 years after my first visit as Prime Minister, that we have reached these evaluations, which are quite good.
Mr. President, this will be the message as well that you will deliver to the European Union. Slovenia is an active member state in the European Union. And as far as we can see, we have very good bilateral relations with independent member states. But the European Union as a whole, the relationship between the European Union and Egypt is not always stable and has not always been stable as well. Are you planning to deliver this message of the political stabilization and the economic stabilization here among the Union itself?
I will tell you very openly my personal opinion, which I will also convey to my colleagues, heads of other countries in the European Union. When there was the so-called Arab Spring, which brought changes in Egypt as well, I had some doubts, and I do admit openly that I had some misgivings, but as I said it honestly, once again I can sincerely and honestly say that I have overcome all these doubts, and as long as it is possible, as far as it is possible, Egypt once again is a pillar of political and security, stability in the region. And that's why Egypt should be treated as a reliable, stable, regardless of the fact that when evaluating some aspects of bilateral relations between Egypt and the European Union or relations within the region, we do not see eye to eye. We do not agree completely. But I do agree with something, as I understood your president's words. All the issues need to be resolved in a peaceful manner, with the cooperation of all the large powers and the countries involved. This is your president's position, and this position of Egypt as a strong country is of invaluable in these efforts. And that's why when I will talk to my colleagues in the European Union, I will convey the best impressions I am bringing back from Egypt. Look, with the president we had a tete-a-tete meeting of 1 hour and a half. That's unusual. More often than not, these talks do not last so long, but they lasted so long because we were discussing openly about things that affect the existence of the European Union, of Egypt and the entire Middle East. And there are many more common points we have than differences, but the most important thing is that Egypt sees the only way of solving issues as the peaceful way, and this is the most important thing for the European Union.
To step up in the bilateral relations, do you need more protocols or agreements to be signed between the two governments, and how as well could Egypt be the gate for Slovenia to the whole of Africa? Because I'm quoting you in the African Day that you hosted earlier this year, that you're interested as Slovenia to have more trade relations with the countries of Africa.
Tomorrow I'll have talks with your Prime Minister, among other talks, and I'm looking at relations are developing, and as a President of the Republic, as not part of the executive, I still will do my best to deepen the cooperation between the two governments. If they need new memorandums, new agreements, treaties, we'll do that. When it comes to practical measures in order to stimulate common joint investments or mutual investments in third markets, we will do our best. With your president, we have agreed that as much as it is needed, we will talk over the phone, and we will try to do everything that we can to boost the cooperation between the two countries. I see huge opportunities here, but here I cannot go too far beyond my competencies, because the two governments should cooperate.
How do you look at the cultural relations that go back to ages ago? And few of us, and I guess from Slovenia as well, from the Slovenian people, know that the constructor of the Abdin Palace and the National Bank, the first bank in Egypt, was Slovenian. That's Mr. or architect Antonio Laciak.
It may come as a surprise for the Egyptian public, at least for me. I'm from the region where we had many women serving in Alexandria in Egypt, and for us Egypt was always not only the center of a huge and millennial civilization, today still is a superpower, and not the least even a cultural superpower. We love as Slovenians to visit Egypt, either for holiday on the Red Sea or to visit Cairo and all the to see the historical and archaeological sites that you might visit in Egypt. There are many businessmen who love to visit Egypt. Today we will host a reception for those who live here and work here. And later on, at the Opera House, we will listen to a concert of a Slovenian singer. And I would like to say that the cultural exchange between Egypt and Slovenia is very lively, very much so. And in our conscience, in our imagination, Egypt is always present.
Let's move a little bit to the region, because I'm sure you tackled issues, regional conflicts as well with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. And the idea of the rising numbers of refugees is a real huge international problem. I know that Slovenia closed at the time its borders with the rise of the numbers. Do you think that the European Union has a common policy of how to deal with refugees, as well as how to deal with the crisis in Syria politically as well?
Unfortunately, I have to be honest and sincere here and admit that the European policy doesn't have a joint approach towards resolving the refugee crisis. And unfortunately, we do not have in Europe, we lack a strong, decisive vision of resolving the problems of the Middle East. And I do understand this fact, that it is based on a lack of deeper cooperation between the 28 member states, and also because of the weakness of the European institutions right now, the European Commission, the Council, and to some extent also of the European Parliament, with, in addition, an increasing trend in populism and nationalist tendencies. As a politician, I am a very pro-European one, and I do believe that we need a European unity. And that's why I do regret that we do not have that unity when it came to resolving the immigration crisis, because all of the 28 countries should share the burden of accepting refugees and tackling the issue. And Europe itself should have a more ambitious view on resolving the Middle East crisis. And that's why I was so glad that I had the opportunity of talking with the Egyptian president about his views. And as you know very well, I am on my way back from Jordan, and 10 days ago or so I was back in Iran, and it could be, I haven't decided yet, but I might visit Turkey in 2 weeks' time. This simply shows that Slovenia is very much interested in seeing the various opinions on resolving the Syria issue, because these are very important in order to guarantee security, in order to resolve all the political issues between the various factions and actors in the region, not only in order to resolve the question of Syria or Iraq, but also to resolve the issue between Israel and Palestine, or maybe in relation to the Iranian nuclear deal. We should strengthen cooperation and trust between all the countries in the region, and consequently to regulate or resolve all the events causing the refugee crisis. I am very glad I had this tour, and I think that Egypt was really an invaluable moment. I have received here a very strong message, and I'm going back to my country with very strong and positive impressions, and I wish Brussels had more attention for the need for the European Union to intervene diplomatically and politically in this part of the world, which, and I will not quote the persons I was speaking with, but today this region is living one of the worst moments of its development. Now we need political stimuli. Now we need courage. Now we need support to the international peacekeepers. And we need to fight those who are against peace. And let me conclude by saying We need the readiness of all the superpowers, the Russian Federation, the US, the countries in the region, and Europe. Then we need to be more present.
Very quickly, do we expect a different policy in the world after the election of a new president in the United States? Especially concerning the Middle East.
Slovenia is a member of NATO, so we are also an ally to the United States. My wish, our wish, is for the United States to remain a strong factor of resolving open issues around the world in a peaceful way, as far as possible. And I do want to express my hope that even the new American administration will be willing to share the responsibility for resolving problems together. No country is big enough to resolve the problems by itself, but no country is so small that it should not bear the responsibility, shared for the peace in the world. I think together we can all make it, but without this hope, we will be doomed to lack self-determination in order to find solutions to these questions. Look, the world community is now creating more problems than the international community is able to resolve. I hope that with the new American administration, with improved relations with the superpowers and more attention from the European Union, we will have more force to resolve these problems and avoid creating new ones. This is the world I wish for you, for your children, our children, and everyone.
President Borut Pahor, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.